All right, everyone, settle down, settle down. I know it's Friday at 4:45, but this will only take a few minutes. Well, maybe an hour, 2 hours tops. We've got a lot to cover, and I've been really excited to talk to you all about Agile. I just got back from a 3-day conference in San Diego, and let me tell you, we've been doing everything wrong. Everything. But don't worry, I'm here to fix it. So Agile. What is Agile? Great question. I'm glad I asked myself that. Agile is a methodology, a framework, a mindset, a lifestyle really, that allows us to move fast and break things. Wait, that's Facebook's motto. Anyway, Agile lets us iterate quickly, pivot when necessary, and deliver value to our customers in short bursts called sprints. Think of it like a marathon made up of a bunch of sprints. Makes total sense, right? Now, I've been reading this book. Well, I've been reading the first 3 chapters, and I skimmed a Medium article about it, so I'm basically an expert now. The book is called Agile for Dummies, but I want to be clear, I'm not calling any of you dummies. That's just the title. Although, given some of the code reviews I've seen, maybe it's appropriate. I'm kidding. That's a joke. We're all friends here. But seriously, some of that code is pretty rough. Let me start with the fundamentals. Agile was created by 17 software developers who went to a ski resort in 2001. Or was it a beach resort? Doesn't matter. The point is, they were tired of all this heavyweight documentation and planning, so they came up with this manifesto. 4 values, 12 principles. I don't remember all of them, but the important one is individuals and interactions over processes and tools, which is why, starting Monday, we're implementing Jira, Confluence, Miro, Monday.com, Asana, and Trello. We need to have the right tools to support our Agile transformation. Oh, and we're also going to start using Azure DevOps. I know we just migrated from GitHub last month, but Azure DevOps has better integration with our enterprise systems. What enterprise systems? Don't worry about it. Just trust me on this. The migration should only take a few weeks, maybe months. Todd, you'll handle that, right? Great. I knew I could count on you. Now, let's talk about sprints. Sprints are 2-week periods where we commit to delivering a certain amount of work. At the end of the sprint, we have working software. That's the key. Working software. So when I come to you on day 3 of the sprint and ask you to add that new payment gateway integration that the CEO just heard about at his golf game, you should be able to squeeze that in, right? I mean, Agile is all about being flexible and responding to change. That's literally in the manifesto. Responding to change over following a plan. So when plans change every single day, that's just us being agile. I've been hearing some complaints about scope creep. First of all, we don't use that term anymore. It's called scope, enhancement, or iterative requirements discovery. Second, if you've estimated your tasks correctly, you should have buffer time built in for these kinds of changes. What do you mean you didn't include buffer time? That's basic project management 101, people. Speaking of estimates, we need to talk about story points. Story points are a way of estimating the complexity and effort of a task without using actual time. So instead of saying, this will take 5 days, you say, this is a 5-point story. See the difference? No? Well, it's subtle. The genius of story points is that they're abstract. They're not hours or days. They're just points, like basketball points or credit card points. You accumulate them. Now we're going to use the Fibonacci sequence for our story points. 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21. Why Fibonacci? Because some consultant told us to, and he charged us $15,000 for a 2-day workshop, so it must be good. Also, it sounds smart and mathematical, and clients love that stuff. Here's how it works. A 1-point story is something super simple, like changing a button color. A two-pointer might be updating some text on a page. A three-pointer is, I don't know, something slightly more complex. 5 points is like a medium task. 8 points is a big task. 13 points is a really big task. And if something is 21 points, you need to break it down into smaller stories, unless it's urgent. Then you just do it as a 21-pointer. Oh, and we need to track velocity. Velocity is how many story points we complete per sprint. Let's say in our first sprint, we complete 25 points. That's our velocity. So in the next sprint, we should commit to 25 points. But also, we need to show continuous improvement. So really, we should commit to 30 points. And then 35. And then 40. If velocity isn't going up, what are we even doing here? Now, some of you might be thinking, but Brad, if we keep increasing our commitments, won't we burn out? And that's a great question, but also a negative attitude. In Agile, we embrace challenge. We embrace discomfort. That's how we grow. Plus, I read in Harvard Business Review that top-performing teams operate at 110% capacity. So really, we're not asking enough of you. Let me tell you about the Agile ceremonies. Oh, I love this part. Ceremonies. Doesn't that sound nice? Like we're getting married or something. First, we have sprint planning. That's where we plan the sprint. It should take about 2 hours for a 2-week sprint, but ours usually run about 5 or 6 hours because we need to make sure everyone understands the requirements. And then we need to re-estimate everything because the requirements changed since we wrote the stories. And then someone remembers we have a production bug that needs to be fixed. And then Jennifer has to check with legal about data compliance. And then we realize half the team is on vacation during the sprint. But it's fine, we'll figure it out. During sprint planning, we go through each story and assign points. This should be collaborative. Everyone gets a vote. We use planning poker cards. Everyone holds up their estimate at the same time. And if there's a big difference, we discuss it. For example, Sarah might say a task is 8 points because she knows there's technical debt in that part of the code base that needs to be refactored first. But I might say it's 3 points because how hard can it be? It's just code. You type some words and boom, it works. So we'll compromise and call it 3 points. But also, Sarah, you should really work on being more positive. Then we have daily stand-up. This is a 15-minute meeting every morning where everyone stands up and says what they did yesterday, what they're doing today, and if they have any blockers. It's called a stand-up because you stand up. Get it? This keeps the meeting short and focused. Of course, our stand-ups usually run about 45 minutes because I like to use them to check in on project status, discuss architecture decisions, debug code issues, talk about my ideas for new features, and occasionally tell stories about my previous startup that failed but taught me so much. Oh, and we do stand-up at 9 a.m. sharp. I know some of you like to roll in at 10 or 11 because you were up late fixing a production issue, or you work better in the evening, but we need to have team synergy. We need everyone there at the same time. That's what Agile is all about. Collaboration, co-location, even though half of you are remote. Speaking of which, remote people, you need to have your cameras on for stand-up. I don't care if you just woke up. This is a professional environment. During stand-up, I want to hear specifics. Don't just say, I worked on the user authentication module. Tell me exactly what you did. How many lines of code did you write? What files did you change? Why did it take all day? Did you take a long lunch? I'm not micromanaging. I'm just trying to understand our process so I can optimize it. And if you have a blocker, we need to resolve it immediately. Right there in stand-up. I don't care if it requires a 2-hour architectural discussion or if we need to pull in someone from another team. We're not ending this meeting until that blocker is resolved. That's the Agile way. No impediments. Everything flows smoothly. After stand-up, you should all go back to your desks and start coding. Or I guess, start having your morning coffee and checking email and Slack and gradually easing into coding around 11. But ideally, you'd start coding right away. We need to maximize our productivity. I've been reading about this technique called deep work, where you block out all distractions and focus intensely for 4 hours straight. You guys should try that. But also make sure you're responsive on Slack, because I might need you for something urgent. Now, mid-sprint, we have backlog refinement. This is where we look at upcoming stories and make sure they're ready for the next sprint. We add details, break down large stories, estimate them, and prioritize them. This meeting should take about an hour, but ours usually run about 3 hours, because we end up discussing features that won't be built for 6 months, and everyone has opinions, and I like to play devil's advocate on literally everything. Here's a pro tip. Always push back on estimates. If a developer says something will take 5 days, tell them you need it in 2 days. Not because you don't trust their judgment, but because you're challenging them to think creatively. Maybe they can cut corners. Maybe they can use a library instead of building from scratch. Maybe they can just work harder. There's always a way to do things faster. Steve Jobs said, "Real artists ship." He didn't say real artists take a reasonable amount of time to ship. Oh, and during backlog refinement, we need to think about dependencies. Does this story depend on another team? Does it require design work? Does it need a database migration? These are all important questions that we should definitely ask after we've already committed to the work and the sprint is halfway over. At the end of the sprint, we have sprint review. This is where we demo what we built to stakeholders. This is usually where things get exciting. We invite the CEO, the CFO, a couple of VPs, maybe some people from sales, and we show them what we accomplished, except half the features aren't quite done, so we have to talk around them. This would work if we had more time. This is almost finished, just needs some polish. This is blocked by infrastructure. But the important thing is we're being transparent. Sometimes during sprint review, stakeholders will suggest changes. Can we make that button blue instead of green? Can we add a filter here? Can we completely redesign this entire workflow? And the answer is always yes. Yes, we can do that. Can we do it before Monday? Also yes. Why? Because we're agile. We embrace change. After sprint review, we have sprint retrospective. This is my favorite ceremony. This is where the team reflects on what went well, what didn't go well, and what we can improve. It's a safe space for honest feedback. No judgment. Everyone can speak freely. Of course, when people do speak freely and say things like, "We took on too much work this sprint," or "the requirements kept changing," or "we need to pay down technical debt," I need to explain why those concerns aren't valid. We didn't take on too much work. We just didn't manage our time efficiently. Requirements didn't change. They evolved. And technical debt isn't real debt. It's just a metaphor. You can't go to jail for technical debt. But I do take feedback seriously. For example, someone once said our stand-ups were too long, so I started setting a timer. Now our stand-ups are exactly 45 minutes. See? I listen. Let me talk about the product backlog for a minute. The product backlog is a prioritized list of everything that needs to be built. At the top are the highest priority items. At the bottom are the lowest priority items. Simple, right? Except everything is highest priority. The CEO's pet project is highest priority. The bug that's been in production for 6 months is highest priority. The feature that sales promised a client without checking with engineering is highest priority. The security vulnerability is highest priority. The technical debt is highest priority. That nice-to-have feature is actually critical and highest priority. So really, the product backlog is just a list of things in the order I feel like doing them on any given day. Yesterday, I thought the mobile redesign was most important. Today, I think we should focus on the admin dashboard. Tomorrow, I'll probably want to build an AI chatbot, because I heard that's what everyone's doing now. Jennifer, you're the product owner, so you're responsible for managing the backlog. But also, I'm going to override most of your decisions, because I have a better sense of the market. No offense. You're great at what you do, but I've been in this industry for 20 years. Well, 15 years. Okay, I worked at a startup for 8 years, and then I did consulting for a while. But the point is, I know what users want. Now let's talk about the definition of done. This is crucial. We need to agree on what done means. Is it done when the code is written? When it's tested? When it's code reviewed? When it's deployed to production? When it's been in production for a week without issues? We need clarity here. Here's what I think done means. The feature works on my laptop when I test it. That's it. That's done. What do you mean it doesn't work in Internet Explorer? Who uses Internet Explorer? Okay, fine. Apparently our biggest client uses Internet Explorer. But that's edge case. We'll fix it later. Oh, you also need to write unit tests? Sure. But do you need to write tests for every single function? Can't you just test the important stuff? What do you mean it's all important? Look, I trust you guys. If you say it works, it works. We don't need to be precious about this. Documentation? Do we really need documentation? The code should be self-documenting. Use meaningful variable names and comments. Although, don't use too many comments because that clutters the code. Actually, you know what? Just write a README file. Keep it brief, though. A paragraph or two. Nobody reads documentation anyway. Let me tell you about this concept called the minimum viable product, or MVP. This is brilliant. The idea is you build the absolute minimum version of a feature that provides value. Just the core functionality, no bells and whistles. Then you release it, get feedback, and iterate. So for example, let's say we're building a user profile page. The MVP would be display the user's name. That's it. Just the name. We ship that. Then in the next iteration, we add their email, then their photo, then their bio, then their posts, then their friends list. See how we're iterating? Each release adds value. Now, I know what you're thinking. Brad, that sounds insane. Nobody wants a profile page that only shows a name. But that's because you're thinking like a developer, not like a product person. Users don't know what they want until we show them. Steve Jobs said that. Or maybe it was Henry Ford. Somebody famous said it. The beauty of MVP is we can ship fast. We can fail fast. We can learn fast. And when users complain that the profile page is useless, we can say, thanks for the feedback. We'll add that to the backlog. Then we'll prioritize it as medium-low and maybe get to it in 6 months. Oh, here's another Agile concept. User stories. Instead of writing requirements as the system shall do X, we write them as a user type. I want goal so that reason. This keeps us focused on user value. For example, as a customer, I want to save my credit card information so that I can check out faster next time. Beautiful, clear, user-focused, except sometimes we need to build infrastructure that doesn't directly benefit users, like database optimization, or security updates, or paying down technical debt. How do we write those as user stories? Easy. As a developer, I want to refactor the authentication module so that I don't want to quit my job. See? Still a user story. The user is just internal. Although, when I review the backlog, I tend to deprioritize those internal user stories because they don't provide direct business value. I mean, I understand that technical debt slows down development, but we can just work faster to compensate, or work longer hours, or work weekends. There are solutions here. Let me tell you about Sprint Zero. This is a concept I just learned about. Sprint Zero is a preliminary sprint where you set up infrastructure, establish coding standards, configure environments, all that foundational stuff before you start building features. It's like the preseason in sports. I think Sprint Zero is a waste of time. We should be delivering value from day one. Just start coding. Figure out the infrastructure as you go. That's true Agile. That's embracing uncertainty. Todd is shaking his head. Todd, you okay, buddy? You look stressed. You know what helps with stress? Proper sprint planning. Have you tried meditating? I started meditating every morning for 5 minutes, and it's changed my life. Well, I did it twice last week, but I felt great both times. Now, one of the challenges with Agile is dealing with technical debt. Technical debt is when you take shortcuts in the code to ship faster, and those shortcuts create problems later. It's like borrowing from your future self. My philosophy on technical debt is, don't worry about it. Future us will deal with it. Future us will be smarter and more experienced. Future us will have better tools. Future us will probably have more time. So let's just ship this code now and deal with consequences later. I know, you're all groaning, but think about it. What if we spend 3 weeks refactoring code and then the business pivots and we don't even need that code anymore? What if we build everything perfectly and then the company gets acquired and the new owners want to use a different tech stack? We can't predict the future, so we might as well move fast and fix things later. Or never fix them. That's also an option. Speaking of moving fast, let's talk about deadlines. I know Agile says we shouldn't have fixed deadlines because requirements change and estimates are uncertain. But in the real world, we have deadlines. The trade show is September 15th. The client expects delivery on October 1st. The investors want to see progress by end of quarter. So here's what we do. We commit to the deadline, and then we figure out how to make it work. Maybe we cut scope. Maybe we work overtime. Maybe we skip testing. Maybe we just ship something that barely works and call it a beta. There's always a solution. And when I say we work overtime, I mean you guys. I'll be there in spirit. And on Slack. Definitely on Slack. I might not be in the office at 9 p.m., but I'll be checking in, sending messages, asking about status updates. That's leadership. Oh, I should mention, we're implementing a new policy where everyone needs to log their time in Jira. Every single thing you do needs to be logged. Coding, testing, code review, meetings, bathroom breaks. Wait, not bathroom breaks, but everything else. This will help us understand where time is going and optimize our process. I know some of you are thinking, that's not very agile, that's micromanagement. But actually, it's empirical process control. That's one of the pillars of Scrum. We measure everything, and we inspect and adapt. So by logging your time, we're just being more agile. See how that works? Let me tell you about cross-functional teams. In Agile, teams should be cross-functional, meaning they have all the skills needed to deliver value. Developers, testers, designers, all working together. No silos, no handoffs, just seamless collaboration. So starting next sprint, we're dissolving the QA team. Developers will do their own testing. This is great news. It eliminates that bottleneck where code sits in QA for days. Now you can test your own code and ship it immediately. What's that, Sarah? You're concerned about quality? Don't be. You're a great developer. I'm sure you'll catch any bugs. Plus, users will catch bugs too. That's free testing. We're basically crowdsourcing QA. Oh, and the design team is also being dissolved. Developers will do their own design. Just use material design or Bootstrap or whatever. Copy what successful apps do. How hard can design be? It's just making things look pretty. This is the beauty of cross-functional teams. Everyone can do everything. We're like a startup, scrappy, resourceful, wearing multiple hats, except we're a 500-person company with 50 million in revenue. But we have startup energy. Now let's discuss technical spikes. A spike is when you spend time researching or experimenting with something uncertain, like investigating a new technology or prototyping an approach. Spikes are time-boxed and don't produce shippable code. I'm not a fan of spikes. They feel like wasted time. Why spend 2 days researching when you could just start building? Make it up as you go. That's what I did at my startup. We didn't do spikes. We just coded and hoped for the best. Okay, we did have to rebuild the entire system 3 times because we chose the wrong technology stack. But we learned a lot. And isn't that what Agile is about? Learning. Although I do remember someone saying, fail fast and learn fast. But I think they meant fail fast on features, not on fundamental architecture decisions that cost 6 months of development time and nearly bankrupted the company. But I digress. Let me talk about pair programming. This is where 2 developers sit at one computer and code together. One person types while the other reviews in real time. Then they switch. The idea is you catch bugs faster, share knowledge, and produce better code. I love the concept of pair programming. 2 brains are better than 1. Except, and hear me out, what if, instead of 2 developers producing 1 thing, we have 2 developers producing 2 things? Separately, at the same time, then we get double the output. I know the research says pair programming actually makes teams more productive in the long run, but I'm skeptical. It seems inefficient, like we're paying 2 salaries for 1 person's output. That's not good business. Although, I did read about mob programming, which is like pair programming, but with the entire team. Everyone gathered around one computer, coding together. That sounds even worse. That's like 5 people producing what 1 person could produce. But apparently, teams that do mob programming swear by it. They say the quality is incredible, and they eliminate so many problems. I don't know. It sounds like a meeting, and we already have too many meetings. Speaking of which, this meeting has been going for an hour and a half. We're almost done. Just bear with me. Let's talk about sustainable pace. The Agile Manifesto says Agile processes should promote sustainable development. The team should be able to maintain a constant pace indefinitely. No death marches, no burnout. I love this principle. Work-life balance is so important. I'm all about that, which is why I rarely email people after 7 p.m. unless it's urgent, or unless I thought of something, or unless I'm reviewing the sprint board and have questions. But generally, I respect boundaries, and I would never ask you to work weekends, unless we're behind schedule, or there's a critical bug, or we have a demo on Monday, or I committed to something without checking with the team first. But those are exceptions. Most weekends, you should be relaxing and recharging. Although, I do expect everyone to check Slack on weekends, just in case something comes up. You don't need to respond immediately. Within an hour or 2 is fine. And I know some of you like to take vacations. That's great. Everyone needs time off. Just try to avoid taking vacation during sprint planning, sprint review, sprint retro, important deadlines, product launches, critical bug fixes, or when we're short-staffed. Other than that, take all the vacation you want. Let me tell you about story mapping. This is a technique where you create a visual map of user journeys and organize stories around those journeys. You put stories on sticky notes and arrange them on a wall. It helps you see the big picture and prioritize more effectively. We did a story mapping session last month. It was great. We covered 3 walls with sticky notes. So many stories, so many ideas. Then the cleaning crew threw everything away that night because they thought it was trash, so we lost all that work. But it's fine. We mostly remember what was on those sticky notes. The lesson here is, take photos of your sticky notes. Or better yet, use Miro. We have a Miro license. Well, I have a Miro license. I'm not sure if I can share it with the whole team. I'll look into that. Oh, here's something important. The Scrum Master role. Kevin is our Scrum Master. His job is to facilitate ceremonies, remove impediments, and coach the team on Agile practices. He's like a referee in sports. He doesn't play the game, but he makes sure everyone follows the rules. Kevin, you've been pretty quiet. That's good. Scrum Masters should be servant leaders, leading from behind. Although, I do think you could be more proactive about removing impediments. Like when Sarah said she was blocked because she needed database credentials, you said you'd look into it. That was 3 days ago. She's still blocked. What? She's not blocked anymore? She figured it out herself? Great. See, that's the Agile mindset. Don't wait for someone to solve your problems. Solve them yourself. Kevin, you're teaching the team self-sufficiency. Well done. Now, one thing we need to get better at is writing acceptance criteria. Acceptance criteria are the conditions that must be met for a story to be considered done. They should be clear, testable, and agreed upon before development starts. For example, if the story is, as a user, I want to reset my password so that I can regain access to my account, the acceptance criteria might be, user can request password reset from login page, user receives email with reset link, link expires after 24 hours, user can set new password that meets security requirements, user can log in with new password. See? Clear and specific. Although we usually don't write acceptance criteria until the developer asks for them mid-sprint, and then we make them up on the spot, and then they change when we see the implementation, but at least we have criteria. Sort of. Let me talk about the role of product owner. Jennifer, you're the product owner. That means you're responsible for maximizing the value of the product. You prioritize the backlog. You accept or reject completed work. You're the voice of the customer. It's a tough job. You're constantly being pulled in different directions. Sales wants features. Marketing wants features. The CEO wants features. I want features. Developers want time to fix technical debt. Users want bugs fixed. Everyone wants something different. Your job is to balance all those competing interests and make the best decisions for the product. Except, I'm going to override a lot of those decisions because I have strong opinions. But other than that, you're in charge. Also, you need to be available to answer questions any time developers need clarification. Drop everything and help them. But also, don't let them bother you with trivial questions. They should figure things out themselves. But also, don't let them make assumptions that turn out to be wrong. It's a delicate balance. And you need to write all the user stories. Make them clear and detailed. But not too detailed because we need to leave room for developer autonomy. But detailed enough that there's no ambiguity. But flexible enough that we can adapt as we learn. You see what I'm saying? Let's discuss continuous integration and continuous deployment, CI/CD. This is where code is automatically built, tested, and deployed with every commit. It's beautiful. It's automation. It's the future. We set up CI/CD last quarter. Well, we started setting it up. We got about 60% of the way there. The build pipeline works. Most of the time, the tests run. When they're not flaky. The deployment, we're still working on that. Todd is handling it. It's his top priority. Right after he finishes the Azure DevOps migration and fixes that production bug and sets up the monitoring and optimizes the database and takes care of those 7 other things I assigned him this morning. But the point is, we're committed to CI/CD eventually, soon, probably by next quarter. Oh, here's a fun concept. The definition of ready. This is the criteria that must be met before a story can be pulled into a sprint. For example, story has clear description, acceptance criteria are defined, dependencies are identified, story is sized, design mock-ups are available. This ensures the team doesn't start working on something that's not ready. Although in practice, we pull stories into the sprint even if they're not ready, because we committed to a certain number of points and we need to fill up the sprint. We'll figure out the details as we go. That's Agile, baby. Now, I want to address something. Some of you have expressed frustration with constantly changing priorities. You say it's hard to focus when the backlog is reshuffled every day. You say it's demoralizing to work on something for 3 days and then have it deprioritized. I hear you. Change is hard. But you know what? The market changes. Customer needs change. Our strategy changes. We have to adapt. Darwin said, "It's not the strongest that survive, but the most adaptable." Or maybe it was someone else who said that about Darwin. Either way, the point stands. The companies that succeed are the ones that can pivot quickly. Look at Netflix. They started as a DVD rental company. Now they're a streaming giant. That's pivoting. That's adapting. That's what we need to do. Every day. Multiple times a day if necessary. So when I come to you and say, stop working on feature X and start working on feature Y, I'm not being indecisive. I'm responding to new information. I'm being agile with a capital A. Let me tell you about technical debt again, because I don't think you understood my position earlier. Technical debt is fine. It's acceptable. It's part of software development. Every company has technical debt. Google has technical debt. Facebook has technical debt. If the big companies have it, why should we worry? The key is to manage it, which means acknowledging it exists and then continuing to ignore it while we build new features. We'll address it eventually. Maybe we'll have a technical debt sprint where we spend 2 weeks just cleaning up code. We'll do that as soon as we have a slow period. When will we have a slow period? Great question. Probably never. But hypothetically, if we did, we'd totally focus on technical debt. Although, between you and me, I think technical debt is often just an excuse. Oh, we can't build that feature quickly because of technical debt. Really? Or is it because you're not being creative enough? There's always a way to hack something together quickly. Worry about clean code later. I read somewhere that premature optimization is the root of all evil. So we shouldn't optimize. We should just ship. Ship, ship, ship. That's the mantra. Let's talk about code reviews. Code reviews are when one developer reviews another developer's code before it's merged. It's a quality gate. It catches bugs. It shares knowledge. It's a best practice. Here's my issue with code reviews. They're slow. Someone writes code, opens a pull request, and then it sits there for days waiting for review. Meanwhile, we could be shipping that code. So here's my proposal. Let's do code reviews asynchronously and quickly. No more than 10 minutes per review. Just skim the code, make sure there are no obvious problems, and approve it. Don't nitpick formatting or variable names. Don't suggest refactoring. Just rubber stamp it and move on. What? Sarah is saying that defeats the purpose of code reviews? Maybe. But it's faster. And speed is what matters in Agile. Although, when there's a bug in production, I do wonder why no one caught it in code review. You guys really need to be more thorough. Let me tell you about velocity gaming. This is when teams artificially inflate their velocity to look more productive. For example, they might estimate stories higher than necessary, or count partially completed work, or cherry-pick easy tasks. We don't do that here. Our velocity is completely honest. Although, I have noticed our velocity has increased 50% in the last 3 sprints. That's amazing. Great work, everyone. You're clearly getting more efficient. What? Mike is saying you're just estimating stories higher to meet my expectations. That's ridiculous. Why would you do that? Our estimates should be accurate. But also, I'm glad velocity is going up. Let's keep that trend going. Now, I want to talk about meetings. I know everyone complains about having too many meetings. I can't get any work done because of all these meetings. I hear this all the time. Here's the thing. Meetings are work. Collaboration is work. Communication is work. If you're in meetings, you're working. Why is coding somehow more real than meetings? That said, I do think we can be more efficient with meetings. So I've decided to implement no meeting Wednesdays. Every Wednesday, no meetings. You can just focus on coding. Except for stand-up. We still need stand-up. And if something urgent comes up, we'll need to meet about that. And we still have our weekly stakeholder sync, which happens to be on Wednesday. But other than those meetings, No meetings on Wednesdays. Also, I might schedule some one-on-ones on Wednesdays, because that's when I have availability. But those are quick. Just 30 minutes. Maybe an hour, if we have a lot to discuss. But the spirit of no meeting Wednesday is intact. Let me tell you about something called Agile theater. This is when teams go through the motions of Agile without actually being agile. They have stand-ups, but they're status reports. They have retros, but nothing changes. They have a backlog, but it's not prioritized. They're performing Agile rather than living it. We definitely don't do Agile theater here. We're doing real Agile. Sure, our stand-ups are long and focus on status rather than blockers. And yes, our retros don't lead to actual changes. And okay, our backlog is a mess. But we have the ceremonies. We use the terminology. We have a Scrum Master. That's real Agile. Oh, here's something I learned at the conference. We need to start measuring our success with metrics, KPIs, key performance indicators. We need data-driven decision-making. So I've identified some metrics we're going to track. Lines of code written per developer per day, number of commits per developer per day, number of stories completed per sprint, velocity, cycle time, lead time, deployment frequency, mean time to recovery, and employee satisfaction scores. We'll have a dashboard that shows all these metrics in real time. I'll check it every morning, multiple times a day actually, and if any metric is trending down, we'll have a meeting to discuss why and how to fix it. I know what you're thinking. Brad, won't this just encourage us to game the metrics? No, because I trust you. You're professionals. You won't write unnecessary code just to inflate your lines of code count. You won't make trivial commits just to boost your commit numbers. You won't break large stories into tiny stories just to complete more stories per sprint, right? Right. Let me talk about stakeholder management for a second. Stakeholders are people who have an interest in the product but aren't on the development team. Executives, customers, partners, whoever. Managing stakeholders is critical to Agile success. The key is to manage expectations. Don't overpromise. Be realistic about timelines. Communicate early and often. Keep them informed of progress and setbacks. Ha! Just kidding. The actual key is to tell them what they want to hear and then scramble to deliver it. Promise aggressive deadlines. Show them exciting demos that are 80% smoke and mirrors. Make them think everything is going great, even when it's falling apart. That's real stakeholder management. And when things inevitably go wrong, blame external factors. The requirements changed. We encountered unexpected technical challenges. Another team didn't deliver their dependency on time. Never admit that maybe we took on too much work or made poor planning decisions. That would make us look bad. Now, let's discuss the concept of done. Not just done, but done. This means the work is truly complete. Coded, tested, reviewed, documented, deployed, validated, no loose ends. The problem is, done takes time, and we don't have time. So we've invented intermediate states. Dev done means the developer thinks it's done. Almost done means it's 90% done. Done, except for, means it's done, except for that one thing. Pretty much done means it might work. These intermediate states give us flexibility. We can move stories to done on the sprint board, even if they're not quite finished. This keeps our velocity looking good. We'll finish the remaining 10% in the next sprint, or the sprint after that, or eventually. Oh, here's a fun one. Walking skeleton. This is an agile architecture pattern where you build a minimal end-to-end system first, then flesh it out iteratively, like building a skeleton and then adding the muscles and organs and skin. We tried this approach once. We built the skeleton. It was beautiful. Clean architecture. Proper separation of concerns. Then we started adding features rapidly, without maintaining that architectural integrity. Now it's more like a skeleton with tumors randomly attached to it. Some organs are on the outside. The skin is only on parts of the body. It's horrifying, but it works, mostly, and that's what matters. Let me tell you about the Agile Manifesto values again, because I want to make sure you really understand them. Actually, I only remember two of them clearly. Individuals and interactions over processes, and tools, and responding to change over following a plan. The other two are something about working software and customer collaboration. You can look them up if you're curious. The point is, these values guide everything we do. When we have 8 different project management tools, that's us valuing individuals and interactions. When I change priorities 3 times a day, that's us responding to change. When we ship buggy code, that's us valuing working software. Kind of. It works sometimes. That counts. Now, I've been hearing some grumbling about work-life balance. Someone mentioned they were up until 2 a.m. fixing a production bug. Someone else said they worked through lunch every day this week. Another person said they haven't taken a real vacation in 18 months. Look, I get it. We're working hard. But that's because we're building something meaningful. We're changing the world. Well, we're building enterprise software for mid-sized companies, but we're making their lives easier. That's meaningful. And yes, there are sacrifices, but think about the reward, not financial rewards necessarily. We don't do raises or bonuses right now because we're investing in growth. But think about the satisfaction of shipping a feature, the pride of solving a hard problem, the joy of deleting code. These are the true rewards. Plus, we have free coffee in the break room, and sometimes there are donuts. That's worth something. Let me talk about the concept of T-shaped people. This is someone who has deep expertise in one area, but also has broad knowledge across multiple areas. The vertical part of the T is their specialty. The horizontal part is their versatility. We need more T-shaped people on this team. Actually, we need E-shaped people. Multiple areas of deep expertise, or M-shaped people, or just people who can do everything competently so I don't have to hire more people because HR said we're over headcount. Sarah, you're primarily a back-end developer, right? That's great. But can you also do front-end work, and DevOps, and database administration, and maybe some design, and project management? Just wear all the hats. Be pentuple-hatted. That's the modern developer. What's that? You'd rather specialize and become truly expert at one thing? That's very 20th century of you. In the modern workplace, we need versatility. Jack of all trades, master of none. Or maybe master of one and competent at 5 others. Either way, more hats. Oh, here's something important. We need to talk about technical specifications. Some teams write detailed technical specs before building anything. They document the architecture, the data models, the APIs, the algorithms, everything. Then they build based on those specs. We don't do that. That's waterfall thinking. In Agile, we believe in minimal documentation. We discover the architecture as we build. We let the code be the documentation. This is faster and more flexible. The downside is that 6 months later, nobody understands how anything works. New developers are completely lost. We spend hours reverse engineering our own code. But that's a problem for future US. Present us is shipping features. Although, there was that one time when the original developer left, and nobody could figure out how the payment system worked, and we were too scared to touch it for fear of breaking something. And we just worked around it for a year, until we finally had to rewrite the whole thing. But that was an isolated incident. Probably won't happen again. Let me tell you about Scrumban. This is a hybrid approach that combines Scrum and Kanban. You take the ceremonies from Scrum and the continuous flow from Kanban. Best of both worlds, right? We're doing Scrumban. Well, we're doing something. We have sprints, but we also pull in work ad hoc during the sprint. We have a sprint backlog, but it's more of a suggestion. We have sprint goals, but they're flexible. We have a Kanban board with columns like to do, in progress, in review, done, and also blocked, waiting, on hold, almost done, done but not really, and we'll get back to this eventually. It's very fluid, very agile, very confusing. Now let's discuss estimates versus commitments. When we estimate a story, we're making an educated guess about how long it will take. When we commit to a story, we're promising to deliver it. These are different things. The problem is, I treat estimates as commitments. If you estimate something will take 3 days and it takes 5 days, I'm going to ask why. What went wrong? Were you slacking off? Did you take too many coffee breaks? Did you waste time refactoring code that didn't need to be refactored? Or maybe the estimate was wrong. Maybe the story was more complex than we thought. Maybe there were hidden dependencies. Maybe the original requirements were unclear and we had to redo work multiple times. But that sounds like excuses. I prefer to believe estimates are accurate and any deviation is a failure of execution. Oh, here's a critical topic. Scope creep. Wait, I said we don't use that term anymore. Scope enhancement. This is when additional requirements are added after work has started. The scope grows. The goalposts move. The finish line gets further away. Some people view this as a problem. I view it as an opportunity to deliver more value, an opportunity to impress stakeholders, an opportunity for the team to demonstrate their flexibility and capability. When I add 3 new requirements mid-sprint, I'm not being difficult. I'm giving you a chance to shine. When I completely change the acceptance criteria after you've finished coding, I'm helping the product evolve. When I ask for just one more thing 15 times in a row, I'm practicing iterative development. You're welcome. Let me talk about the role of architects in Agile. Some people say you don't need architects in Agile. The team collectively owns the architecture. Decisions emerge from the work. You don't need some ivory tower architect dictating how things should be built. I disagree. We need architecture. We need someone thinking about the big picture. We need technical leadership. Except we don't have a dedicated architect. We laid off our architect last year during the restructuring. So now architecture decisions are made by whoever is most opinionated in any given moment. Sometimes it's Sarah. Sometimes it's Mike. Sometimes it's me, even though I haven't written code in 7 years, and when I did, it was in Perl. This democratic approach to architecture has resulted in a system with 4 different authentication methods, 3 database technologies, 2 front-end frameworks, and 1 giant ball of mud holding it all together. But hey, we're diverse. Now, I want to address something called the Scrum Guide. This is the official definition of Scrum, written by the creators of Scrum. It's like the Bible of Scrum. It's only about 20 pages. Very readable. I haven't actually read it. I've read summaries and blog posts about it, and I watched a YouTube video once. So I'm basically an expert. The Scrum Guide says some things that I don't agree with, or that don't fit our organization. So we do Scrum but. We do Scrum but we don't have dedicated teams because we have a matrix organization. We do Scrum but we have sprints of different lengths because some projects move faster than others. We do Scrum but the product owner isn't available because Jennifer has 17 other responsibilities. We do Scrum but we don't do retrospectives consistently because we're too busy. Some purists would say that's not Scrum, but I think Scrum is a framework, not a methodology. It's meant to be adapted. We're adapting it. Heavily. Beyond recognition, perhaps. But the spirit is there. Let me tell you about dependencies. Dependencies are when your work depends on someone else's work. Team A needs Team B to finish their API before Team A can build their feature. Team C needs Team D to provide database access. Team E needs Team F to stop breaking the build every 5 minutes. Dependencies are the enemy of Agile. They slow everything down. They create bottlenecks. They require coordination and communication. My solution? Ignore dependencies. Just start building. Assume the dependency will be ready when you need it. If it's not ready, mock it out. Create a fake version. Work around it. Where there's a will, there's a way. Sure, this sometimes results in integration nightmares later, but that's a later problem. We'll have a hardening sprint where we fix all the integration issues, or we'll just accept that some things don't quite work together and document it as a known issue. Oh, speaking of documentation, we need to get better at documentation. Specifically, we need better commit messages. I see commit messages like fixed bug or updates or stuff. These are useless. Commit messages should be descriptive. They should explain what changed and why. They should tell a story. Fixed null pointer, exception in user authentication service, caused by invalid session tokens being passed from the front end after the recent Redux refactor. See how much better that is? Now I know writing good commit messages takes time, and time is precious. So maybe just write fixed bug, but also be more descriptive. Balance, people. Let me talk about the concept of fail fast. This means when something isn't working, acknowledge it quickly and pivot. Don't keep throwing good money after bad. Don't fall victim to sunk cost fallacy. I love this concept in theory. In practice, I never want to admit that something isn't working. That project we've been working on for 6 months that clearly should be cancelled. Let's give it another 3 months. That architectural decision that was obviously wrong. Let's keep going and see if it magically gets better. That feature that no users want? Let's build it anyway because we already started. Failing fast is for quitters. We're not quitters. We're committed. Even when commitment becomes stubbornness, and stubbornness becomes denial. Now, I've been reading about OKRs, objectives and key results. This is a goal-setting framework. You set ambitious objectives and define measurable key results to track progress. For example, objective, become the market leader in our category. Key results, increase user base by 300%, achieve 99.9% uptime, reduce customer churn to under 5%, ship 50 new features. These are our OKRs for next quarter. What? Sarah is saying these are impossibly ambitious and we have no realistic path to achieving them? That's the point. OKRs are meant to be stretch goals. If we achieve 70% of an OKR, that's considered success. So when we increase our user base by 20%, achieve 94% uptime, have 30% churn, and ship 12 features, we can say we made progress toward our OKRs. Glass half full, people. Let me tell you about The Three Amigos. No, not the movie. The Three Amigos is an agile practice where the developer, tester, and product owner get together before development starts to discuss a story. They explore different scenarios, clarify requirements, and align on expectations. We don't do Three Amigos meetings. We do one amigo who guesses. The developer reads the story, makes some assumptions, builds something, and hopes it's what was wanted. If it's not, we'll fix it in a future sprint. This is more efficient. One person in a meeting is better than 3 people in a meeting. Math. Oh, here's something we need to implement. Automated testing. Unit tests, integration tests, end-to-end tests. Tests that run automatically with every code change. This catches bugs early and gives us confidence to refactor. We have some tests, a handful. Mostly they test that true equals true and that the application starts up without crashing. The coverage is maybe 15%. But it's a start. I keep telling the team to write more tests. They keep saying they don't have time because they're too busy implementing all the features I ask for. I tell them to make time. They tell me something about trade-offs and priorities. I tell them testing is a priority. They ask if they should delay the feature deadline to write tests. I say no, hit the deadline. It's a Mexican standoff. Nobody writes tests. Although, when there's a bug in production, I do ask, why didn't we have tests to catch this? The answer is usually, because you didn't give us time to write tests. But that sounds like excuse-making. Let me talk about technical interviews. When we hire new developers, we need to make sure they can actually code, so we give them technical challenges. Fizz buzz, reverse a linked list, balance a binary tree, the classics. Then they join the team and discover that 90% of the job is dealing with legacy code, attending meetings, deciphering unclear requirements, and fighting with merge conflicts. Nothing they were tested on in the interview. But hey, at least we know they can reverse a linked list. That's important. We definitely do that regularly here. All the time. Constant linked list reversing. Oh, here's a critical topic. Definition of ready versus definition of done. We talked about definition of done earlier. Definition of ready is the criteria for pulling a story into a sprint. Definition of done is the criteria for completing a story. Both are important. Both ensure quality. Both prevent misunderstandings. We have neither formally defined. We just sort of wing it. A story is ready if it has a title. A story is done if someone says, "I'm done with that." It's a very flexible system. Now let's discuss the importance of co-location. Agile works best when the team is physically together. Same room, same building, at least same time zone. This enables spontaneous collaboration, osmotic communication, and team bonding. We're a distributed team. Half the team is remote. Different time zones, different continents. We haven't all been in the same room since the company retreat 3 years ago. But it's fine. We have Slack and Zoom and Miro and all these collaboration tools. It's just like being co-located, except for the time zones, and the communication delays, and the lack of whiteboard sessions, and the difficulty building rapport, and the feeling of isolation. But other than that, it's exactly the same. Let me tell you about work-in-progress limits, WIP limits. This is a Kanban concept, where you limit how many items can be in each stage of your workflow. For example, only 3 stories can be in progress at once. This prevents people from starting too many things and forces them to finish work before starting new work. We don't have WIP limits. Everyone works on multiple things simultaneously. Context switching all day long. Sarah is working on 5 different stories. Mike is juggling 3 bug fixes and 2 features. Todd is handling 7 infrastructure tasks. Everyone is busy. Everyone is stressed. Nothing is getting finished quickly. But we're doing a lot of things at once, and that feels productive. Although I did read that multitasking is a myth and context switching kills productivity, and we'd actually get more done if we focused on one thing at a time. But that was in one of those productivity books. Those are for individuals, not teams. Different rules apply. Oh, here's something fun. Spike solutions. Remember, a spike is time-boxed research or experimentation. A spike solution is when you build a quick throwaway prototype to explore an approach. The key word is throwaway. You're not building production code. You're exploring, learning. Then you throw it away and build the real thing properly. Except, we never throw away spike solutions. That spike code becomes production code. Because why would we throw away working code? That's wasteful. So we clean it up a little bit, maybe add some comments, and ship it. Then 6 months later, we're maintaining production code that was supposed to be deleted. Code that was built quickly, without proper design or testing. Code that everyone is afraid to touch because nobody fully understands it. But it works, mostly, and that's what counts. Let me talk about the Spotify model. Spotify is known for its agile organization structure. They have squads, tribes, chapters, and guilds. Squads are small cross-functional teams. Tribes are collections of squads. Chapters are people with similar skills across squads. Guilds are communities of interest. It sounds amazing. So many companies try to copy it. We tried to copy it last year. We reorganized into squads and tribes. We had a consultant come in and facilitate the transformation. We spent 3 months restructuring. We made org charts. We had team-building exercises. Then we quietly went back to our old structure because the new one was confusing and didn't fit our culture or our business model or our actual work patterns. But we still use some of the terminology. We call teams squads now. That's something. Oh, here's an important concept. Time boxing. This means allocating a fixed time period to an activity. When time is up, you stop, regardless of whether you're finished. Sprint planning is time boxed to 2 hours. Stand-up is time boxed to 15 minutes. Retro is time boxed to 90 minutes, except we regularly blow past these time boxes because we have more to discuss. Sprint planning takes 4 hours. Stand-up takes 45 minutes. Retro takes 2.5 hours. But we have a time box. Even if we ignore it, having one shows we care about efficiency. Let me tell you about capacity planning. This is where you calculate how much work the team can take on in a sprint based on availability, velocity, and other factors. For example, if the team has 10 people, each person has 8 hours per day. That's 80 hours per day, times 10 working days in a sprint. That's 800 hours. But then you subtract meetings, email, Slack, context switching, and actual lunch breaks, and you're left with maybe 400 productive hours. Then you account for vacations, sick days, and random urgencies, and you're down to 300 hours. I don't do this math. I just look at the backlog and decide how much work we should commit to, based on what I think should be reasonable. Then the team scrambles to make it happen. Much simpler. Now, I've been hearing about this thing called mob programming. It's like pair programming, but with the whole team. Everyone sits around one computer. One person types, one person navigates. Everyone else contributes ideas. You rotate roles every few minutes. This sounds absolutely insane. The entire team working on one thing at one computer? That's like 5 people's salaries producing one person's output. How is that efficient? But apparently teams that do it swear by it. They say the quality is incredible. They say they eliminate so many bugs and bad decisions. They say knowledge sharing is automatic. They say it's actually faster because you don't waste time with handoffs and miscommunication. I remain skeptical, but I'm open to it. We could try it. Maybe on a Friday afternoon as a team-building exercise. We'll mob program for an hour, then get pizza. That sounds fun, right? And if it goes well, we can consider doing it more regularly, which means we'll never do it again because we'll be too busy. Let me talk about work-life integration. That's the new term, not work-life balance, but work-life integration. The idea is that work and life shouldn't be separate compartments, but should flow together naturally. What this means in practice is that you check work email during dinner, you take personal calls during work hours, you work from the soccer game, you attend the meeting from your living room. Work and life integrate seamlessly. Some people love this flexibility. Some people find it exhausting because they're never truly off work or truly present in their personal life. But it's the modern way. We're integrated, although I do expect you to be available during core business hours, and for urgent issues, and for sprint ceremonies, and when I slack you, but otherwise, totally flexible. Integrate away. Oh, here's something critical. Bus factor. This is the number of team members who would need to get hit by a bus before the project is in serious trouble. If only one person understands the authentication system, your bus factor is 1. That's bad. Our bus factor on several critical systems is exactly 1. Sarah is the only one who understands the payment processing. Todd is the only one who understands the deployment pipeline. Mike is the only one who understands that weird legacy module that we keep around because we're afraid to delete it. We need to improve our bus factor through documentation and knowledge sharing. Or we need to be extra careful with buses. Maybe don't let those people near buses, just to be safe. Let me tell you about product discovery. This is the process of figuring out what to build. You talk to users, analyze data, run experiments, validate assumptions. You discover problems worth solving before you start solving them. We don't really do product discovery. We do executive intuition. Someone senior has an idea, we assume it's good and we build it. Sometimes users want it. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes we never actually check. But we move fast. We're not bogged down with all that research and validation. We just build things. That's true Agile, right? Although there was that feature we spent 3 months building that literally 0 users adopted, and that redesign that increased user complaints by 400%, and that new workflow that made things slower instead of faster. But those are outliers. Most of our intuitions are correct. Probably. Now let's talk about the you build it, you run it philosophy. This means that developers who build features are also responsible for operating them in production. If your code breaks at 3 a.m., you're the one getting paged. This creates accountability. It encourages developers to write better code, add proper logging, think about operations, and monitor their systems. We sort of do this. By which I mean when something breaks in production, we message whoever worked on it recently and hope they're awake and able to fix it. If they're not available, Todd handles it. Todd handles everything. Todd, you're looking a little haggard. Are you sleeping enough? You should try meditation. Let me talk about continuous improvement. This is a core Agile principle. You're always looking for ways to improve your process, your code, your team dynamics, your product. You never settle. You always evolve. We say we value continuous improvement. We have retrospectives every sprint where we identify improvements. We put those improvements on sticky notes. We take photos of the sticky notes. Then we file those photos somewhere and continue doing everything exactly the same way. But we're aware we could improve. That's half the battle, maybe even 60% of the battle. Awareness is key. Oh, here's a concept called swarming. When a story is blocked or at risk, the whole team swarms on it to unblock it or finish it. Everyone drops what they're doing and focuses on that one critical item. This ensures nothing stays blocked for long and demonstrates team commitment to sprint goals. We don't really swarm. We do the opposite. When something is blocked, everyone avoids it and works on other things because dealing with blocked work is frustrating and nobody wants to be the one stuck with it. The blocked story sits there for days or weeks until finally the sprint ends and we carry it over to the next sprint where it will sit blocked for another few weeks. But in theory, swarming sounds great. Now, I want to address something called the iron triangle. This is project management fundamentals. You have 3 constraints: scope, time, and quality. You can optimize for 2, but not all 3. If you want more scope in less time, quality suffers. If you want high quality and fast delivery, you need to reduce scope. If you want lots of features with high quality, it takes more time. I reject the iron triangle. I think we can have it all. High quality, lots of features, fast delivery. We just need to work smarter, be more efficient, cut out waste, optimize processes, believe in ourselves. The team keeps insisting the iron triangle is real and backed by decades of project management experience. I keep insisting we can beat it with positivity and determination. We're at an impasse. Let me tell you about Kaizen. This is a Japanese philosophy of continuous incremental improvement. Small changes, consistently applied, lead to significant improvement over time. I love Kaizen. We should all embrace Kaizen. Except I'm not very patient. I want big improvements now. Radical transformation. Revolutionary change. Kaizen is too slow. Can't we just skip ahead to being amazing? But I tell the team to embrace Kaizen, while I simultaneously demand dramatic overnight improvements. I contain multitudes. Oh, here's something we need to address. Context switching. This is when you're interrupted in the middle of focused work and have to shift to something else. It takes time to get back into flow state. Context switching kills productivity. Studies show it can take 23 minutes to fully refocus after an interruption. Multiply that by dozens of interruptions per day, and you lose hours of productive time. I understand this intellectually, But I also need to ask you quick questions throughout the day, and those urgent issues can't wait. And when I think of something, I need to tell you right away before I forget. So yes, minimize context switching, but also be responsive when I slack you. Balance. All right, let me wrap this up. We've covered a lot today. Agile is about flexibility, collaboration, continuous improvement, and delivering value. It's about embracing change, empowering teams, and focusing on outcomes over outputs. We're on a journey. We're not perfect at Agile yet, but we're getting there. Each sprint, we get a little better. Each retrospective, we identify improvements. Each planning session, we refine our estimates. Or we're just stumbling along, making the same mistakes repeatedly, calling it Agile, and hoping nobody notices. Hard to say. But the important thing is, we're trying. We have stand-ups, we have sprints, we use Jira, we say words like velocity and story points and retrospective. That's something. And honestly, despite all the chaos and confusion and contradictions, we're building software. It works. Mostly. Users use it. Mostly. The company is still in business. Mostly. So in that sense, whatever we're doing is working, even if it doesn't quite match what those 17 developers talked about at that ski resort in 2001. Anyway, it's now 6:30 p.m. on a Friday. I know I said this would only take a few minutes. Time got away from me. But I think this was valuable. We're all on the same page now about Agile. We understand the principles, the practices, the ceremonies. Starting Monday, we're going full Agile, really committing to it this time, by the book, well, by the articles I've skimmed, by the spirit of Agile anyway. Any questions? No? Great. Everyone's probably exhausted. Go home, rest up. We've got a big sprint starting Monday. I've already loaded the backlog with stories, about twice as many as our average velocity would suggest we can complete, but I have faith in you. Oh, one more thing before you go. Can someone send me the notes from this meeting? I wasn't really keeping track, and I want to make sure we captured all the key points. Sarah, can you do that? Just a quick summary. Shouldn't take more than an hour or two. Have it to me by Sunday night so I can review it before our Monday planning session. Also, Todd, can you stay for a few minutes? I want to talk to you about that production issue from last week and the Azure migration and the monitoring system and 7 other things. It'll be quick. Just another hour, maybe 2. Everyone else, have a great weekend. Remember, work-life integration. Check your Slack. Be agile.